Hey, everybody. This is Lauren. I'm back here with the 2x2 today. I am joined with Tracy Schmidt, who is a former Time reporter for Time Magazine, who is the founder of the PR Accelerator, who is a friend, who has been a great help to me in demystifying what it means to get your name out there in a way that is useful and valuable to your business. So, Tracy, thanks for indulging me today.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. I'm so psyched and excited to talk about you and what you've already done with PR
A
as well.
little, yeah. I don't know if I've like fully maximized it, but we've done a couple things. We were just chatting before I started recording, and I was saying, Tracy, are you Tracy Schmidt or Tracy Goodhart? And you're Tracy Schmidt, but that's your maiden name, and you're still married.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'm Wambled Patel, unless I need to be Lauren Patel for nefarious purposes. So why would you go through the legal? I'm not going to ask if you're going through this legally, but what's the thought process here in your reversion?
I never committed to my married name legally because my husband tried to stop me from taking his name. He's like, you don't want this name. He's like, it's too much pressure. And I didn't believe him.
Is he so
And
amazing that it's too much pressure?
it's really great that people put all of their expectations on you when you have that name. And unlike you, Lauren, I am a people pleaser. And
Mhm.
so I will be like, oh, I'll be nice because they think I'm a good heart. You're like, screw you. I'll just
Yeah,
do me. I'm always like, oh, let me be extra nice to you because now you expect it.
you're awesome.
So 3 years into our marriage, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to just go back. So I went back. But so many people, including you, knew me as Tracy Goodhart. So it's taken a while to come back.
That is crazy. Yeah, I mean, I can get the pressure of being called Goodhart. However, if I was Lauren Goodhart, married to Herschel Goodhart, which by the way would
That's a great
just
name.
like talk about someone, I would not feel that pressure because you're right. I'm like anti people pleaser. I actually like kind of get a rise out of not being people pleaser. But okay, that's super progressive and amazing. I love it. Yeah, so now you have to go back to spelling your name though. Because Schmidt can be spelled in different ways. Like you
I
have a
do. I'm
silent
a
C.
heart. They were always like HART because it certainly couldn't be HEART. But from a PR perspective, this is a good lesson. We all have personal search results, right? What happens
Yes.
when you get married and you
Yes.
lose it, right? You know this.
I know. That's why
And
I kept Wombold. Yeah.
okay, that makes a lot of
I mean,
sense.
I
Yeah,
use
so
Wombold Patel
you're
for
probably the
professional
only.
purposes because I didn't want to lose the Wombold because there's only one other Lauren Wombold in the world.
There you
And it's
go.
pretty
See?
obvious which one of us we are. So yeah.
So I'm so psyched to get back, 15 years of search results because I had nothing under Goodheart.
That's crazy. Okay, so let's go. This is perfect segue. What are the 15, if we searched you, what are the 15 years of search results going to tell us about you?
Well, apparently you found a deck I forgot I had, which we're going to get into in a little bit. You're going to see first off my Time Magazine search results. That was how I first came to be Tracy Samantha Schmidt because I used to be Tracy Schmidt. When you are a reporter, you get a byline, and that byline has to go across all your articles. And at the time, the spokeswoman of the RNC was Tracy Schmidt. And I was in Washington covering the RNC, and they got confused. They're like, "Why do you want to talk to Tracy Schmidt? You are Tracy." Like, I was like, "I don't want her search results. I want my own." So I started using my middle name, which took an entire line in the magazine, and my editor yelled at me.
Yeah, but that's super strategic
It
because
was no.
like
I
you're
have
just
great
taking
search
up you're
results.
taking up the what could be negative space. A little bit more visual for you. Yeah, that's smart.
There you
Okay.
go.
So
So
Time Magazine, you covered the Republican Party.
a little bit, like just reference, like a couple interviews, things like that. I largely covered the rise of social media. I wanted to. It was 2006, 2008, and so I forced my way into covering Facebook and other things. While I was at Time, I developed new methods for reporting news using social media. So most whatever, tragically, covered the shootings at Virginia Tech. And in that moment was able to use Facebook to find survivors and eyewitnesses. And that had not been done before. And so then I started teaching journalists what I did so that they could understand how to use social media to find sources. So,
And at the
yeah.
time that was all new. I am sure that's probably like the primary method now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
I mean,
So did that, left Time, came to Chicago Tribune, was a reporter and came up with this idea to create a social network inside the Tribune.
Hmm.
And they wanted to run that. They go with it. It didn't quite work because they didn't have enough money. So they kind of honestly didn't do a big investment enough to make it work, and it became a blog network, which was still successful, but it wasn't what I wanted it to ultimately be. So we ran that. Then I just switched into consulting in the media, helped all of our journalists learn to use social media. At this point, I'd moved over to Crane Communications, which publishes Advertising Age, investment news, many trade publications. Ran the global social media strategy for them, which unified 18 newsrooms. So at the time, it was getting 18 newsrooms to use social media effectively. And then I left to do my own consulting business.
When were you at Cranes? What years?
2012 to 2015.
Yeah, okay, that's great because that must have coincided with the rise of the mainstream in terms of social media. Like that's the time at which our moms started being active users, right? Like if you look at what you're saying, like 2006 to 2008 is when Facebook was .edu addresses and
Mhm.
then migrated to beyond .edu, right? But it was still, I mean, if you look like the grand scheme of things, like still fairly niche. Then you're like looking at the mainstream and seeing how can we do that and make it scale. That's great. I mean, that's so many interesting learnings too, because it's not it's an interesting blend for me thinking about you as a journalist and then you as a content distributor and thinking about how do you really use both of those things to find information but then also get the information into the hands of the right people. um, Super cool. And then you started consulting on PR. Were you doing, when you first started consulting, actually this is interesting, I didn't know you did that, were you consulting with PR firms? Were you looking for individual clients? Were you going freelance looking for corporate clients? Like what was your approach?
So what I didn't say was that I actually trained a lot of moms how to use social media when I was in the media. One way we were looking to make money was let's teach people how to use social media, not thinking that we were basically putting newspapers out of business. So I was teaching thousands of people who were paying the Chicago Tribune and later Cranes to learn how to use social media for personal branding, business marketing, all those things. And so I then opened a business, Socially Authentic, where we, mostly me, but me and other people would first train people how to use social media. And then it became consulting around social media. And then it just became generalized marketing communications.
Yeah.
It was not PR in the beginning.
The
I
people,
hated PR, actually. We can get into that.
yeah, no, why
So,
did you hate PR?
because I thought that the model was highly unethical. You're like paying so much money for no guarantees, and it's not that hard to do it. I just didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's
That
take a
was
step back. So you know what PR is, but what is PR? Like I want to be
just,
clear on how it's different from marketing because
yeah,
it's a Venn diagram, right? But what is it? And yeah, like what's the purpose
yeah.
of it?
So PR is a subset of marketing. PR is a subset of communications. Ultimately, what PR is building relationships with the public. That's how the official definition of it looks. What that means to me is how do we get you, yourself, or your brand visible? How do we get you visible in the right places, saying the right thing at the right time? And there are different ways to do that, but the most famous or popular ones are getting media coverage, getting speaking gigs, writing articles, now doing podcasts, now talking to influencers. That's PR.
And what
And
does
oh, go ahead.
so the way I first learned about it was actually like through the marketing channel as earned media, thinking of earned media as a vehicle within a bigger marketing plan.
Hmm.
And eventually realized that, oh, PR is like the other side of earned media. It's like if you're an individual trying to get that media, how do you get it? Whereas as a marketer, you look at it and you say, okay, well, this is a great way to get the channel out. How does the model normally work? You said you think it's a little bit unethical. You're paying for the promise of something.
You can't pay for the promise because they can't guarantee you
Well, not
anything
a
either.
promise. You're paying for a
I
hope.
mean,
You're
that's
paying for a
what's
dream.
when you think about the business model, it's fascinating. You spend eight to $20,000 a month, 6 month retainer with no guarantees of anything, and very limited transparency into what people are doing with all your money. So weird. And yet it is a thing. I hate that model because honestly, I know how people get coverage. It's not that hard. You send emails to the right reporter with the right idea at the right time, and they'll go, "Yeah, I'll talk to you. Okay, I'll quote you," or "Yeah, I'll put you on my show." Why do you have to pay so much? I guess, Lauren, at a time like 30 years ago, we didn't have email, we didn't have social media, so people needed those relationships.
Hmm.
You don't need that anymore.
Hmm.
You can totally just find the right person and just build a relationship yourself.
Yeah, I love the hack. I mean, so Tracy and I worked together about a year ago.
Yeah.
Um, and I had understood the value of PR, and I think it's really, I mean, I find the value, at least for me, was that when you're in B2B marketing and you're trying to establish some credibility, and you need the credibility in order to drive real consideration from real buyers, I felt like, okay, I have a gap. No one knows who I am. No one cares I mean, not that anyone cares now, but like there was a real gap for me. And even in doing something to have some sort of credibility. So when someone just Googled me, something valuable would come up. It made a lot of sense, but was there no way ever I was going to shell out $8,000 a month? You as a small business, like there's no way you can really do that. Um,
No.
so let's take this from the idea of the journalist, because it's been interesting going through this process. And I did end up appearing in Fast Company, which was a huge win. I ended up having interviews with Fast Company and with Forbes. And it was my first experience speaking to journalists like I'd never had. And it was a really interesting kind of, I don't know, it was not uncomfortable, but just a new sense of like, what does this person do all day? Like, do they have these calls with all these people that are just like me, just talking about stuff, and sharing their knowledge? And then I kind of went back to what you say, but talk to me about like the day in the life of the journalist, and like, what are they really looking for? What is the benefit? Well, maybe not the benefit first, but what are they really looking for? And like, how do you help them do that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the job has changed so much for them in the last 15 years because of social media. It used to be that they would get assigned one or two stories a week, and then they would write those stories, maybe more if they're at a newspaper, and then they would just continue. Now they have to publish probably two or three stories a day, and
Mhm.
they often have been asked to have active personalities on social media. That's changed in the last couple of years. There's not as much emphasis on that, but it's a massive job. So now they're always just scanning for story ideas. They're, reacting to the news and trying to find sources. So you were a source in those stories, that they can quote or reference. So
How
that's
do they scan for stories? I want to break it down.
how do they scan for stories? So they're looking at multiple things. They're looking at their own website analytics. So what's tracking on, like they have heat maps on their website. They can figure out where people are going, what's trending. They're looking at Google Trends to figure out what people are searching for in real time or near real time. They're looking at what people are talking on social media, but then they're also looking for things that are undercovered. So they might be looking at small blogs. They might be looking at podcasts, at conferences, at Reddit threads to find things that haven't been covered yet.
And do the journalists usually focus on one particular like topic area? I mean,
Called a
how
beat.
niche is their view? You're a
Depends
business
on
journalist, but how far does that break down typically?
It can vary widely. So it depends on what publication they're at. Some publications like Cranes we mentioned earlier, one of those reporters now is covering like six beats, which is insane because they're so varied. And it used to be like one or two a decade ago. A lot of Lauren, what's happened is the media has been decimated. Like we saw 25,000 reporters get laid off in the last 2.5 years in the United States. Some of those reporters are now going very niche on their own. They're going to Substack or Beehive and they're
Mhm.
starting their own thing. So then they can get really granular, or they're going to startups that are much more niche in the trades or business specifically.
So the problem that they are looking to solve is, how do I find a really interesting topic that stands out as related to one of these trends that I've been tracking? And once I have that topic, how do I find the right people that can give like truly valuable information and speak to that topic with a true perspective that'll make their piece interesting, scrollable, and grab attention?
Exactly. Or sometimes in the case like with you and Fast Company, somebody will come to them with an idea and then they'll act on it, which is what happened with your story, which is really cool to see.
Yeah. So you said you shortcut the whole process, and by finding the first step was finding the journalists themselves. Take us through
Do you
the
mean from a
process of kind of how you have shortcut PR.
Yeah. So what we want to think about first is who's your target audience? Like who do you, Lauren, want to be getting in front of? So if you want to be getting in front of, business executives, what are the publications that they read? What are the shows that they listen to? What are the conferences that they go to? So we think about that. Then we think about where's the media white space? Like where's the thing that people are interested in that's not being well covered yet? I call it media white space, but it's really thinking about the zeitgeist and what trends are happening and what's open for you and what will be open for you in the next 3 to 6 months so you can get yourself there. And so then we think about, okay, this topic, in your case, it was the great fractionalization, like, increasingly executives are being fractionalized. Cool. What does that mean for corporate America? So how do we pitch you, Lauren, as the expert on this thing? And how do we get journalists interested in this thing to see a bigger trend, a bigger story? And so then what we do on our end is create pitches, email pitches, which is what a publicist sends. And then we create the media list, which a publicist creates, and we give it to you to send. Publicists are just sending emails largely. So why can't you or your VA send those emails?
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what we do.
Has anybody turned this into a GPT?
I mean, we're working on it.
It's like you could imagine now, like having a couple of agents, like now. But so the way we did it, just back up a year here, is we had the piece, we came up with the idea, we outlined it. My copy team wrote it. Then you gave the instructions that you just outlined in a very consumable format to our team and trained them. And then our team, which by the way is at the time was one person in the Philippines, she had a calendar and she followed the calendar and diligently went through the list of sending the pitch to different journalists, and it hit and it was picked up and we got a response from it. Just thinking about this now, I'm like, I wouldn't necessarily even need Pam to do it. Like if you gave me the list and the emails, like I think it would be pretty easy to create something that was automated. So
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
next round, Pam, if you're listening, lucky you'll get out of it. Pam's still with me, by the way. She's amazing. You'll get out of having to send these emails when we figure out how to automate it. So yeah, I mean, that
We
makes it
do.
super accessible, but I believe from my perspective, like the magic was in Tracy found the people. And then, which I wouldn't know how to do. And then Tracy learned how to speak Lauren and dealt with me on the phone a couple times to get the idea honed, which is really hard to do yourself. I mean,
Yes. Yes. Very hard. Very hard. I will say one of our clients has automated the process and he's going to show me what he did. They got into Newsweek on their first try, which was awesome.
mm-hmm.
Back to this though, I argue that one cannot do personal branding on their own. You're too close to
You can't.
yourself.
I totally agree with you, by the way.
Hmm. Yeah,
You cannot
cannot
do
do
that.
it. I had to hire a writer to write my stuff because I was like, I can't do it. I'm like, I'm not that cool. She's like, yes, you are.
Yes, you are,
Like,
but you can't
let's just
tell
write
your
that.
own. Yeah.
No. So that's why it's a good invest for consultants. It's a really good investment because not only is it good from a PR perspective, but you can use this messaging in your sales proposals, in your speaking, like bios and things like that.
Yeah. I probably haven't told you because we haven't talked in about 6 months. Let me tell you what I've done with it just
Please.
to talk about how this basically became I don't know what the right analogy is. It became like a more than what you gave me. So, and when we worked together, yes, we had the strategy, but you also helped me develop the messaging framework, which was truly like the first person we had worked with who had helped me define Keenan Reed and our offer in a way that customers would hear it. And you developed a media kit for us, and I don't know, multi-page messaging strategy that included like words I could use to describe what we did and the value that we create. That then has become a couple things like through, I used that and tested it over 3 months with people chatting, and it morphs just like it always does, right? It evolved into the next phase, which evolved into the next phase. But in January, when I was thinking, we had a great year last year, and I was thinking like, okay, how do I continue this chain of growth. And I thought, I really feel like we've evolved so far that I need to go back and go back to the core of the value prop and revisit what you did. And with Sarah on my team, like really get our value prop super differentiated. We did that, which then led to finally the impetus to get the website fixed and to get really great copy that I truly am proud of what we do. And when I outlined what we do, I realized, oh my gosh, the impact of what we do became more clear to me. I was able to get the case studies written not that the case studies changed, like the impact was always there. What wasn't there was my ability to articulate our impact from the way the customer would hear it. So when you go to the website now, keenanreed.com, like people will see very clearly like what we do and very clearly how we are different. And that helped us land a really great and big client that I never would have been able to do that because I never would have been able to articulate the value in the real way. So
Damn.
it wasn't just like, okay, it's cool that I got in Fast Company. And truth be told, I texted it to my family and I was like, yay, and literally crickets. Like I wasn't a child that was in a play, like Wombles, if you're listening. The children in the family rightly get all the credit. I was like, guys, look, I succeeded. And they were like, okay, ho hum, like when are we?
Oh.
But what came from it for me was much bigger than, just the PR. I think the messaging piece is super important. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah. I had another thing I was gonna. So what are the other, okay, so you've worked with me, I work in business, but you don't just work with people that are consultants in business. Like how have you seen this method be helpful to people in other industries?
Totally. We work with all sorts. We're currently working with a bionic hand company. So people with amputations. We work with that company. They're doing great in the trades. A baby food brand, a lot of AI companies,
I bet.
several nonprofits. Great for nonprofits because it's cheap and it empowers their teams. I mean, it's just really any brand can use it.
Yeah.
Or people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, cool. Well, let me look at your deck.
Was it the deck you wanted to go over?
Oh, I am. I'm not going to go through the deck. I'm
I know, I'm so curious
of course I
about
found the
this
deck.
deck.
It's like, I'm like, wait.
You're so funny.
I'm looking at your high points. You've covered it. Yeah.
Sweet.
No, I think it's awesome.
I will say one thing for consultants to think about is this idea of having an idea and then making sure that idea is continuing to hit over and over so you become known for it. That's probably something that people want to know about.
Say more on that. You mean having IP or this goes beyond just having a niche. That's not what you're saying. The idea you mean is.
It's some sort of theory or framework that you become known for and people hire you for. So I can talk about our client Ian and how he went viral at South by and that blew up his business because of his speech.
What's his big idea?
His big idea is the age of creative generalists. So he is an expert on how Gen AI is going to affect the future of work. So we developed his speech in 2023 about everybody's going to need to be a generalist with AI for it to really work. And then what does that mean for how companies look and how careers look?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe I need to go back to my great idea. I feel like maybe I don't quite have one. No, I see him here in your deck. Yeah. I was at another event last week and a woman stood up and she also had this great, I think it's really important to have a top line message. The other thing that this maps back to a guy I've met named Wes Wheelis, who is a former consultant, but he helps consultants develop their IP, which is, I think, taking the concept of an idea a step further into a methodology, the how behind you implement. You must have the idea. That idea must be tied to a pain point and you must have messaging around that. But what he's doing is, just like it's very difficult to build a personal brand, it is very difficult to actually simplify your own way of doing something into a simple framework and methodology. And so Wes does that too. I think it's super useful. I mean, I can imagine that if someone is new coming into this and maybe they have 18 months under their belt and they're feeling like, okay, I'm going to be an independent consultant. This is working out for my life. It would be well worth the investment in getting the messaging framework and the idea documented and starting to put some feelers out into the media space around it, to working with Wes on getting that IP, or doing it with anybody, but I like Wes, so fine, work with Wes to get your IP developed. Um, do you think someone needs a website when they get to that phase?
Absolutely.
Okay,
You
so
need a website
let's debate this. At what point do you need a website
from
versus
day
the
one.
LinkedIn profile?
Day one.
Day
Because LinkedIn profile is only
one.
giving you 2,600 characters to sell somebody, right? And that summary is not going to do a lot for you. And you need another search result, especially with Gen AI looking for expertise. LinkedIn is only going to give them one input. Your website can give them many inputs. And SEO still matters today.
What is the AI looking for in your website?
I can't answer that. I'm not that expert, but
Okay.
I can give you other experts.
This is an area actually I'm kind of curious about. I'm an advisor in a startup, and we were talking about this yesterday about like what, she's talking about search results. And I'm like, I don't think that actually matters. Like if you're building a platform that's going to pop in 2 years, like I think you have to be thinking about how this new stuff is going to work. Okay. So my opinion is different. I think you don't need to invest in a proper website until you have steady state revenue. I think a LinkedIn profile, and I'm talking about like business consultants, right? Like
Okay.
LinkedIn profile is perfectly, like most of your clients are coming from, I mean, all of your clients are coming from word of mouth and your own personal relationships. You can use your LinkedIn profile if you've done it right. Big if, it really has to be right, but you can coast off of that for a while, provided you have a really tight about section, provided you're using the articles and featured content in order to share your thought leadership, your methodology, your big idea, etc. Um, and you can focus on having conversations with the right people versus the time and effort to get a website. That's, or investing the honestly $20,000 it takes to get a website that doesn't look like junk. So
Yeah. Accurate.
it's
Accurate. If you don't have
hard.
20 grand, then
Yeah,
yes,
then why
make
bought,
your
like
LinkedIn
that's
work
why
for
my
you.
website was so janky, is because like I didn't have 20 grand, you know, until I've hacked it recently, but I'm still charging anybody who wants one 100. So I was, yeah, I was like, well, we could do this. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to charge less than $100,000. So anyway, that's just me. Yeah. Okay. So we'll agree to disagree there. I mean, I see your point. Um, if you're, yeah, I think it depends too, like on what type of work you do. I think if you're
Totally.
right, if you're a marketer, you probably need a website. LinkedIn probably is not enough. If you're a
If
pricing
you have,
guy, like it's gonna be pretty dry. Like LinkedIn is probably okay.
yeah, if you have like one anchor client and you're good for years, you can get by with LinkedIn. But if you have many clients and there's short engagements, I would want you to have
Yeah,
a
if there's short
website.
engagements, maybe that's the difference. If you have
Totally.
long, once you get a client, they're going to be your client for 5 years. Then yeah, then
Oh yeah, you don't need a
you don't
website.
need a
No way.
website.
Sorry, Lauren. I'm coming at it from a marketer's
Yeah.
perspective.
Okay. Well, good. No, different perspectives are good. Well, that's fantastic. Tracy, thanks for having the conversation with me. You can find Tracy at praccelerator.com.
Yep, you got it.
And it's
Thank
Schmidt,
you.
not Goodhart, despite the fact she does
Tracy
wonderful
Schmidt.
things for other people. Um, thank
Thanks.
you again. Appreciate it. It's been
Congrats.
great to catch up.
Same.